What are your thoughts on Idaho? Native Idahoan and current resident here. Idaho can basically be split into two portions, culturally and geographically, which are even different time zones and legislative districts. The southern portion is mostly desert, and the population centers hug the Snake River Plain. This part of the state has a lot of Mormon influence. It's the portion I grew up in, went to school in, and currently live in. The northern portion is more mountainous. My mother is a native of this area, and currently lives there along with most of the rest of her family. If southern Idaho is an extension of Utah, northern Idaho is an extension of eastern Washington. You'll see plenty of Trump bumper stickers and yard signs here, but that's because Trump supporters tend to strongly value group loyalty. On the whole, Idaho is more of a Rocky Mountain Republican state, which is more concerned with government overreach than with owning the libs. We voted for Cruz rather than Trump in the primary. Think Glenn Beck's paranoia, not Alex Jones's aggression. This is a favorite place for preppers, and we had quite a few move in during the run-up to Y2K. A lot of people expect the system to crash around them at any moment, so there's a heavy emphasis on self-reliance and government distrust. The general attitude toward Trump from most conservatives I talk to is annoyance. They think he needs to put the phone down and stop jeopardizing their chance to lower taxes, keep their guns, and scale back the federal government. Native Idahoan here, and you nailed it. I left 20 years ago, and with how things are now, I'll never go back. Funny you think of it that way. I love ID for its nature and beauty, but describe it to people as the West VA of the West. I also compare Western OR and VT for people who have never been to the other. Yes, it's a horrible place. I also recommend people go elsewhere. Same. I can't count the number of white Christian conservatives I've seen move there from California. Apparently it's some sort of utopia for them. Also, I've met at least two great people who left Idaho because they were gay and liberal, and they never look forward to visiting family there. Totally agree with this assessment. It's a shame. I have a relative who bought a house there a year or so ago. She sends me pictures of moose and I think wild turkeys. The skiing and golfing are excellent apparently. I have never been remotely close to there, but I would like to visit. It looks beautiful. I live in Idaho for seasonal work, normally live in Texas. Idaho is everything Texas thinks it is politically. Went to a bagel shop, and someone walked in and casually asked the, couldn't have been older than 15, cashier for a shotgun. Cashier promptly gave her a shotgun. I hope it was to scare off a moose. One of the stranger things I've witnessed here. State law requires all bagel shops to have loaner shotguns. What you witnessed is very normal. I was living in Priest River almost 20 years ago. We had moose problems one winter. After calling wildlife control, they just gave us a shotgun with a few slugs. No questions asked. No proof of moose needed. No money exchanged. Dude just drove up and handed us a gun. Said he'd be back for it in a few weeks. I want to like Idaho, but the people there make it clear that I'm not welcome. Everywhere I went, I saw "Keep California out of Idaho." People seemed nice until they found out I was from CA. I have some friends there and have some great memories up there. But behind the smoke and mirrors, a lot of people seem to be pretty hateful. Well said. Idaho resident for the last 30 years. It cracks me up how much Idaho hates outsiders, especially PPL from California, when Idaho fought for business to develop in the mid-90s. What other PPL don't realize too, some PPL that moved from California were born and raised in Idaho and moved after the Depression due to poor paying jobs and lack of housing with no way to have a family. Those people are moving back to Idaho to be away from the rat race and to essentially die in their home state that they love. Whenever people talk about how beautiful it is, they're always talking about northern Idaho. Southern Idaho is high desert, sagebrush, and very brown and gray. It's also where most of the people actually live. The politics went from meh bad to awful in the past few years. Overall, I don't recommend living there to anyone. Southern Idaho is, both politically and geographically, really just northern Utah. Northern Idaho is, both politically and geographically, really just western Montana. And maybe it's just because I grew up here, but I think the desert/steppes are really beautiful, and it is kinda sad how that part of nature is in danger in a lot of ways. I do agree the politics are pretty bad though. I have a sentimental attachment because it's home, but I can't in good conscience recommend people to move here either. I don't recommend anyone even visit. Go to Montana instead. Idaho has gone from being a great place to get away for a long weekend, skiing, fishing, camping all over that beautiful state, while avoiding the anti-governmental/Nazi whack jobs around Coeur d'Alene, to some place I avoid. The QAnon/Trumpism ooze has spread from the dark corners to Boise. Transplants are very nice, but many of my conservative friends who have spent the last 3 years complaining about everything in California, Oregon, and Washington have or plan to move there. Honestly, if it weren't for McCall, wife worked there for a while, Pocatello, Idaho State mainly, and Twin Falls, we stay there every year on our trip to Vegas, I'd probably write off the entire state as further west West Virginia. Edit, explained my rationale about those 3 towns. Just my opinion, YMMV. Wait, Pocatello and Twin Falls are the only good parts left. I turned down a job in TF a few years back, visited Boise TF Sun Valley Stanley Boise last year and enjoyed my time in all of those places. ETA, I guess my shock was that Twin Falls is considered a worthwhile part of Idaho, haha. Pocatello is considered a good place to you. I grew up there and left as quick as I could. Cultish place, the outdoor opportunities were great but the people are horrible.